I think it's too soon to tell on that because these hearings just happened. So I don't think there's going to be a discernible impact on user growth. And I don't know if there's going to be any. I've been thinking, you notice it felt like so big last week or 2 weeks ago. And now it feels like nobody's talking about that as they move on to other things because of the news cycle. But I think it's a question of what's going to happen with legislation or regulation or things like that. But in this quarter, I doubt there'll be any big fallout from it.
Kara, it's interesting that Google is changing a few things about the way they report results. I should say Alphabet, but I still say Google. Particularly the way they report on some of their investments. We could see Uber show up in a big way in these results, right? Why is that perhaps important?
They'll just say what their investments are worth. And they made a small investment in Uber many years ago. I think it was a couple $100 million. It's worth a couple billion now, $3 billion, $4 billion, based on different valuations. It'll just be interesting to see how they're valuing these non-Google assets, essentially, if you want to call it, or non-Alphabet assets that they own and have investments in. So that'll be interesting. I think what the other Google bets are worth and things like that around their Nest and different things like that will be interesting. And then they're changing the way they're reporting some advertising revenue to be more accurate to their growth. But I think the Uber thing will just be interesting to see. I think everybody knows it's about $3 billion, or if you just penciled it out. But it'll be on the sheet there, and we'll be able to see it.
And sort of looking at how it's changing its metrics for the advertising business and how it reports on that, the shift from clicks to impressions. What does that actually mean?
It's just better. It's a better cost per click versus. It's just a better reflection of the growth and how it's doing. I think Google's still a juggernaut. It's just a better description of a better piece of data for Wall Street. Google's never been too open with a lot of its data. It's been pretty parsimonious. But under Ruth Porat, I think she's just locking things down and giving more of an insight into where its business is going. And it just feels like that's what they've been doing with a bunch of these things. So you very clearly see what their assets are and how they're doing and what the growth is.
So if it's too early to tell, or too early to see concrete fallout, if there's no meaningful impact on the business so far, as Zuckerberg likes to say, when does that happen, right? When does this wave begin to crest, Kara, in your view?
I don't know if there's going to be any. I think people are concerned about privacy. It's just a question of whether it impacts people using the services. I would suspect of all of them, Facebook would be the one most affected in terms of how people feel about privacy and using it and not posting as much. But I think you're going to, there's anecdotal people talking about how it's not as active, the news feed's not as robust as it's been. But I think that's just people. It's just not. We don't know. And I think that'll be clear in the next quarter, maybe, if at all. We'll see.
It sounds like you think it might actually all get forgotten to some degree, and we just
that's what I'm thinking.
They just continue to grow as they were before.
I don't know about that. It's enormous. I mean, I think that's their biggest issue, as I've always said, is, look, these privacy violations are appalling. We all know that. It's just a question of, look at Uber. I mean, everybody was appalled by Uber's behavior, and it's growing. So it's just a question of whether its service is innovative, people like what they're getting, and as they start to make changes around privacy, that's always a good thing. But I'm not so sure that that's the decision-making by people who use the service. I wish it was, but it may not be.
And so far as I can recall, Google never really gave any third parties any data. They never had this grandiose idea about a platform where more sharing is good. So we're going to show other people what you're searching for through apps that'll be built on our platform. They've always kept that kind of close, though they've been gathering a lot of information in ways that people don't understand through Android, through multiple services. So the issues are a little different for them, aren't they?
Well, a little bit, but I know Mark kept saying we don't sell your data. But it's just wordplay. They use the data to make money. They used your data to make money. However they do it, they don't actually sell it, but they are actually doing a version of selling it by packaging it or giving insights into the people on the service. And they sell the audience. How about that? They sell the audience, and they don't sell the data itself. So all of those businesses are predicated on an advertising business, and therefore that's what they do, whether people like it or not, and whether they can do it in a more responsible way is the big question.
Yeah, and Kara, to the point you just made, this big Wall Street Journal report that was out this morning sort of looking at how Alphabet collects all of that data and what that actually looks like, I think it's pretty eye-opening. I think a lot of consumers don't actually understand. I mean, the line that really jumped out to me was the one where it says that Google Analytics is far and away the web's most dominant analytics platform, that it's used on the sites of about half of the biggest companies in the U.S. It has a total reach of 30 million to 50 million sites. It tracks you whether or not you are logged in. I think folks that maybe don't even use the internet very much, and if they are still out there, would be very surprised to realize how much data is actually being gathered on them as well.
Right, absolutely. If you're using the internet, you're being tracked. That is just the way it is. And if you're using a phone or any other apps or things like that, they know what you're doing or where you're going, and that's their business. Their business is selling advertising or selling insights to your behavior, and so that's what they're doing. I mean, I don't know, I think that's really pretty clear. And, the question is, will there be regulation related to it? Will they be stymied in how they do it? Will they have to explain it better? Those are all questions for legislators.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.